We were told before we went that the prices in Ramadan of everything go up, and we really noticed that when we were there. The trains had doubled in price, the hotels, and even simple things like prayer mats and things, they have all gone up in price. So just be mindful of that if you are booking your Umrah and you're going in Ramadan time. Just be aware that you will be paying a little bit more for pretty much everything while you're there. Assalamu alaikum and welcome back to my channel. I hope you're all doing really well, inshallah. I want to give you a little rundown of how we booked our Umrah, costs, visas, flights, etc. because I personally had read so many different things online. I really didn't know whether we would even be able to go, but alhamdulillah, I arrived back a couple of weeks ago from my Umrah trip. I know first of all you need to be invited by Allah, and even if you do all the steps correctly, there might be something that comes up and you're not able to go, and that is because it's down to Him whether we are invited or not. But I didn't know if I'd done everything in my power to allow me to go. So in this video, inshallah, it will give you peace of mind and allow you to maybe look into booking your Umrah trip. So let's begin. First of all, I've been asked this question a few times. Do you need to prove your Shahada certificate to perform Umrah? And for me personally, no, I didn't need to show my certificate. This was something I was a little bit worried about as well, because my certificate, they've spelt my name wrong, just slightly in my surname, they spelt it wrong. So I was really worried before I went if this would be an issue and they wouldn't let me go in. But I didn't get asked that at all during my entire Umrah trip. So I think it's best to have a certificate if you can. I know that a lot of reverts that became Muslim many years ago maybe didn't get a certificate, but that was something I was really aware of when I took my Shahada. I went back to the mosque a couple of days later to make sure that I picked it up just in case I needed it. But no, I didn't need it on my trip, but I still do think it's a good idea to have just in case. Next up is the visa. Now, before I went, this was another thing I was so worried about. So as a British national, I thought I needed a visa before I went. However, I had heard online that as of 2024, UK nationals do not need a visa to enter Saudi Arabia. So I was very worried turning up to Saudi with no visa, really hoping that everything would go well. When I arrived, it was visa on arrival. Now, I was a little bit shocked, I'm not going to lie. Hamza, as a Moroccan national, had already applied for his visa online. I think he paid around £70. It would have been easier just to do mine online as well. I really wish that I'd done that. So as soon as I arrived to the airport, we were taken to a separate desk where I then had to do my fingerprints and all those kind of things and get my visa there. Now, I think on arrival, the visa is more expensive than if you were to do it online. So the total was around £105, £110, something like that. So I mean, I think I would have saved around £30 or £40 doing it online, but it is the option to do it when you arrive if you want to as a UK national, but it isn't visa free like I thought it was. Booking your Umrah trip can be so pricey. For months before we'd even decided that we were going to go and perform Umrah, I would look up trips that you can go with a group, and they were always so expensive. The groups I'd seen were anything ranging between £2,000, £3,000, £4,000, which to me, I don't have that kind of money, so that wasn't an option for us. I can see the benefit of going in a group so you know what to do at all times, because there is a lot involved in Umrah. And then also if you go to Medina and you go to the Prophet, peace be upon him's mosque, there is so much information that at the time I wasn't aware of. If you watch my vlogs, you'll know what I'm talking about. So I can see the benefit of a group, but also it is very pricey, so you can do things a lot cheaper if you do it by yourself. We booked this trip all separately, so it didn't kind of add up as a big amount of money in the one go. We'd actually booked the flights last September for March is when we flew over. The flights were over £1,000, I know that anyway, over £1,000. And to fly to Riyadh was so much cheaper than to fly anywhere else in Saudi Arabia. So be mindful of that as well when you are looking to go. Don't just be dead set on getting as close as possible to Mecca. Look at the other options, and then you can always find transport once you're there. For us, the cheapest option was to go from London, and it was a stopover in Istanbul where we kind of made the most of it and had a little bit of a holiday in Istanbul for 5 days, and then went over to Saudi Arabia. We flew to Riyadh, which is the capital, and that was the cheapest option for us at that time. At this point, we had not booked anything at all. That was all we booked, was the flights and the hotel we booked when we were in Istanbul. We do that when we travel. We just book somewhere for a couple of nights and then just see how things go, if we want to extend, or then we could just move on freely. The original hotel that we had booked through booking.com didn't actually exist when we arrived. The people in Saudi Arabia are just so amazing and so welcoming, and this taxi driver, he was driving around for ages that night trying to find this hotel, and it just didn't exist. So he found us another hotel to go and stay at, which turned out to be really lovely. We just decided to stay in Riyadh for 2 days before moving on to Mecca. We had a bit of an idea of, how to get around. We'd seen the bullet train, but we wanted to keep costs down as much as possible, so we decided to go with the bus. You'll know all of this if you've watched the vlogs already, and if you haven't, check them out on my channel. In Riyadh, there's a lot of travel agents where you can book your trip to Mecca, and that is what we did. We found a shop with some really lovely, helpful people. We got the coach from Riyadh to Mecca. Now, if I'm correct, I'm sure it was a 6-hour journey, but we stopped a lot and people kind of went over the time a little bit, so it ended up being around 8 or 9 hours, I think, if I remember correctly. Through them, we got the bus and then a 4-star hotel, which, to be honest, we don't normally go for 4-star. We always go for a lot cheaper, but this ended up being a really great deal. I would highly recommend this hotel. The name was Bawabat Minna Hotel. I'm probably saying that completely wrong. Hamza was the one that was dealing with everything because obviously everything is in Arabic and I was just following him. I would highly recommend that hotel. It was so clean, lovely. It was about a 10-minute drive from Masjid al-Haram, and there was buses constantly outside. As soon as the bus would fill up, the next one would come in and then we would go. And I think that's the same for most of the hotels around Mecca. There's thousands and thousands of buses, so I do think most of the hotels offer that anyway. After 4 nights in the hotel, we wanted to extend. We hadn't seen everything we wanted to do in Mecca. We did our Umrah and we were just so exhausted and overwhelmed. There were so many more things we wanted to do. We wanted to go see Jabal al-Noor and have a look around the market. So we went to extend, but the prices had all doubled, if not tripled, because it was the last 10 nights in Ramadan and we couldn't justify that for 1 night. So we left that hotel and then we moved on to another hotel, which was actually closer to Masjid al-Haram, and they also had buses on. So we got a really good deal with another hotel and we ended up staying for another 2 nights, I think. Once our time in Mecca had come to an end, we decided that we wanted to move on to Jeddah. To go to Jeddah, we were looking at getting a bus there, but Hamza got speaking to an Uber driver that drove us back from Jabal al-Noor, and he said that he would take us, so they agreed on a good price. Jeddah from Mecca really isn't far at all. I think in the car it was about 45-minute journey, so not far at all. We stayed in Jeddah for a few days, which was so beautiful, and honestly I just love Saudi Arabia so much. Inshallah, I would love to go back again and do lots of touristy things and just explore that beautiful country more. After a few days in Jeddah, we decided to move to Medina. Now, this is where we were looking at getting the bullet train. However, the train was 3 or 4 times more expensive than the bus. We were just really trying to keep the cost down during the entire trip. So we got the bus. It was a 5.5-hour journey, I think. Also, the train, if you're wanting to book, try and do it in advance because it books up so fast. We did look at getting the train that day and it was fully booked for a few days, and also the price was very high. So keep that in mind also when you are booking. And if you don't mind traveling for a little longer, maybe if you have kids and things, it's a different situation for you. But for me and my husband, we don't mind spending a little extra time and keeping the cost down. All the hotels we stayed at, apart from the first one in Mecca, everything was on booking.com. We booked an apartment in Medina. It was actually 10 kilometers away from the Prophet, peace be upon him's mosque. All the hotels in that area were very pricey. And again, it was the last 10 nights in Ramadan. So Ramadan prices go up and then the final 10 days in Ramadan the prices go up again. So very, very expensive time. Our apartment was absolutely beautiful. Again, I showed it in the Medina vlog. There was a masjid right outside the apartment, and it was just so beautiful to hear the adhan going off 5 times a day, and yeah, beautiful. Honestly, I would just love to live there so much. I feel so sad since being back. But anyway, the apartment was so much cheaper because it was 10 kilometers away. But you also have to be mindful that that then adds up with getting Ubers, etc. And because it's quite far out and the traffic would get really, really bad at night time, a lot of Ubers weren't even accepting. So there was a couple of times we were stood outside the apartment just waiting for an Uber to pick up, and a brother pulled up and he offered just to drive us there for free. He said he was going in that direction anyway. Crazy, honestly, subhanallah. And again, the same thing happened the next day. A Pakistani family, they all budged up and let us get in their car and they drove us there. Absolutely unbelievable. When you think in a situation that you're not going to be able to go and do something, Allah puts somebody there to help you in that moment, subhanallah. It happened to us twice, and yeah, so very grateful, so very grateful. Then our flight heading home was from Riyadh. Like I said, flying to Riyadh was so much cheaper than anywhere else in the country for those dates. And again, we got the bus back to Riyadh because that was the cheapest option for us. The bus stop was just at the same place where we'd been dropped off to arrive there in Medina. So we got the bus from Medina to Riyadh. That bus journey was long. I'm trying to think back. I think it was around 10 hours, I think. And it was the last day of Ramadan as well. On all these bus journeys, you're handed water and dates to break your fast, and subhanallah, it's just such a beautiful place to be. I really, really pray that each and every one of you managed to go, inshallah. We travelled back to Riyadh that day. We were kind of hoping Eid was going to fall on the day we were in Medina, but we were a bit worried that maybe the transport would kind of slow down. I'm not too sure how the transport is in Saudi on Eid. We made sure that we were back in Riyadh so that we were able to get our flight to leave the day after Eid. So we celebrated Eid there in Saudi Arabia, which was so cool. I really, really enjoyed it, alhamdulillah. Yeah, the entire trip was just blessing after blessing after blessing. I am so grateful to have been able to go, for Allah to have allowed it, and it really just is the trip of a lifetime, alhamdulillah. We are not the type of people that have a lot of money. We literally live off our pay slips as they come in. There's so many people out there that are way worse off than me and my husband are. I just wanted to make this video to try and help somebody else out there that maybe doesn't have a great deal of money either, and I want to show you how we did our Umrah trip on the best budget that we could. And even if you think that it's a million miles away from your budget, my tip would be to try and book it separately, like what we did. We booked the flights months and months before and then paid up hotels and things as we arrived. That is an option. And obviously the main one is dua, because Allah is the one that can make it possible. If you are somebody that likes to go on a lot of holidays throughout the year, like me, maybe money that you would set aside for that, kind of hold it back and then put that towards your Umrah. I really pray, inshallah, that you're able to go. And I hope this video gave you some sort of benefit. I hope that you can take something away from this. And if you have any questions at all, please don't hesitate to get in touch. I will do my best, inshallah, to help you out. Thank you so much for watching. I will see you in the next video, inshallah.